I was an ordinary person, cradled in the comfort of daily life, until a day exploded into extraordinary. An unshakable whisper beckoned me toward hidden truths. Suddenly, I was standing on the edge of an abyss where revelations awaited. About the Nephilim's plan and my soul's place in it, what I discovered could reshape everything you think you know. Keep watching, as the moment of truth draws ever closer. As I was driving along that familiar road, the hum of tires against pavement felt almost comforting, a soundtrack to my often mundane life. In an instant, everything changed. A sudden tightness gripped my chest, and within moments, the world around me started to blur, fading into a distant echo. Panic shot through me like lightning. My heart raced wildly, and I grasped the steering wheel, desperately trying to control something that was spiraling out of my reach. Then, it hit me. A searing pain, like a fire igniting within my chest, followed by an all-consuming darkness. I remember feeling my body slowly loosen its grip on reality, as if I were being pulled into a deep abyss. There was a peculiar weightlessness. Like floating above a churning sea, my physical form slipping away, while my consciousness seemed vast and unfettered. In those agonizing seconds, I was no longer tethered to the familiar confines of my life. Time stretched, and I found myself suspended in an eerie liminal space, surrounded by an unsettling silence. It was as if the world had shifted into slow motion. Every heartbeat suddenly amplified, but somehow I could feel none of them. Fear clawed at me, a primal urge to fight against the encroaching void. But beneath that terror was an equally powerful wonder. What was happening? It felt as if I was on the precipice of something monumental, yet utterly indescribable. In those frightening moments of absolute stillness, I sensed something waiting just beyond my reach, a revelation teetering on the edge of my awareness. It beckoned to me, hinting at truths I had never even begun to comprehend. I could not yet grasp how this terrifying brush with death would soon unravel everything I thought I knew about life and existence itself. Each second dragged on, heavy with significance, whispering that the intensity of this experience held the key to a profound awakening, one that would shake the very foundations of my understanding. As I began to slip further away from the world I knew, a brilliant tunnel of radiant light enveloped me. It stretched on ahead like a cosmic invitation, pulsing with warmth and brilliance that seemed to breathe with life. Strange as it may sound, I felt both terrified and utterly at peace. The kind of feeling that rushes over you when you stand on a cliff edge, dizzy with the fear of falling yet intoxicated by the thrill of the view. As I moved through that tunnel, I began to lose all sense of my physical form. With each moment, I sensed my body dissolving, replaced by an overwhelming sensation of purity and light. Then, emerging from that brilliant haze, I saw them. Towering figures made entirely of luminous energy. They radiated a kind of ancient authority, standing silently yet powerfully, their presence sending shivers through my core. Their faces were not easily discernible, but their shimmering forms held my attention completely. It was as if they were crafted from the very essence of stars, both ethereal and grounded. I realized that they weren't just beings. They were symbols of something far greater, echoing through the ages. In their presence, an uncanny chill wrapped around me. I felt an urgency, a call to attention. They seemed to know my very essence, the innermost truth of who I was, and that recognition both frightened and exhilarated me. When they began to communicate, their voices resonated, not through the air, but within my very soul. It was a timeless language, rich with meaning, yet I could scarcely catch the words. The essence of their messages flowed like a river of insight, more profound than anything I could ever articulate. Every syllable vibrated deep within, stirring emotions I hadn't known resided in me. In that surreal moment, I was acutely aware that I'd stepped into a realm untouched by the rules of our physical world, a place where everything could shift with a thought, where time was irrelevant, and where wisdom transcended mortal understanding. This encounter felt monumental, like unearthing a secret long buried beneath layers of existence. Yet even in that moment of clarity, I sensed a veil of mystery lingering, an unsolved puzzle I was destined to encounter. I could feel the weight of their cryptic messages pressing upon me, hinting at deeper truths that were soon to unfold. My mind raced, forced to grapple with the enormity of what I was experiencing. As I readied myself for the astonishing revelation that awaited, the allure of the unknown pulled me further, igniting a burning curiosity within me that refused to be silenced. Despite my trepidation, it felt as though I was on the brink of uncovering something extraordinary, something that could change everything. As I stood before those radiant beings, I felt an urgency emanating from them, one that sent a jolt through my very core. Their energy was electric, and it became clear that what they were about to convey was not just significant. It was an urgent warning. Each brilliant shimmer of their forms felt like it was alive with meaning, clamoring for my undivided attention. Then, the images began to unfold before me. Vivid scenes that gripped my heart and caused a tremor of dread in my spirit. I saw a powerful political leader emerging, their influence growing rapidly come spring 2025. The feelings of charisma, authority, and overwhelming force radiated from their presence in the visions. But there was a sinister undercurrent pulling at the edges of my awareness. I could see their extreme policies, each decision twisting the fabric of society, igniting a spark of civil unrest that spread like wildfire. As the details intensified, I glimpsed other ominous events cascading through the world. I could almost hear the echo of sirens piercing through cities as people flooded the streets, voices raised in anger and despair. It was as if every shout of frustration against this leader's actions fueled further turmoil, creating an ever-deepening chaos. My heart ached at the realization that it would reach beyond borders, spiraling into global economic collapse. But the revelations didn't stop there. My mind raced as more images broke through the horizon of my consciousness. Nature itself, in furious response to human actions, rose up fiercely. I saw raging waters swallowing entire towns in Southeast Asia, displacing millions, leaving desperate families clinging to hope as their fates changed in an instant. The sheer power of it struck me like a punch to the gut. This was more than just a warning. It was nature rebelling against us, a call to reckon with our impact on the earth. Then came a vision of Europe, shrouded in uncertainty, as energy crises unfolded in unimaginable ways. Darkness engulfed cities that once thrived, a stark reminder of how fragile our systems truly are. My spirit sank deeper with each new revelation, the reality of this hidden, nefarious plan becoming harder to bear. I wrestled with the weight of all this knowledge, the enormity of what I had witnessed pressing down on me. In those moments, I couldn't help but contemplate the implications of this impending chaos. It felt like the universe was pleading with humanity to awaken, to heed these warnings before it was too late. A chill ran through me, knowing that what these beings revealed was meant not only for me, but for everyone. The urgency crystallized in my mind like a thunderclap. If we didn't pay attention to these omens and insights, we risked being swept away by the tide of our own making. I stood there in that transcendent moment, grappling with fear and a desperate longing for change, understanding that these revelations weren't just abstract predictions. They were a poignant reminder of our interconnectedness and the choices we make every day. I felt an overwhelming responsibility to grasp this insight, to awaken others before the fabric of our existence was irrevocably torn apart, each moment becoming an echo of the urgency that resonated within me. As my vision deepened, a wave of images surged forth, each one more striking than the last. I found myself staring into a storm of prophetic omens that played out like a cinematic reel. Each scene felt urgent, and my heart fluttered uncomfortably as I recognized the intricacies of what I was witnessing. Blueprints of both natural disasters and man-made catastrophes, woven together with threads of ambition and greed. Among the vivid images I saw the slow creep of water over coastlines, swallowing homes and livelihoods whole. Scenes flashed before me. Families, standing helplessly on their rooftops as the relentless tide surged higher, their faces a mix of despair and disbelief. It became achingly clear that these were not mere consequences of natural processes, but rather reflections of a spiritual neglect that was accelerating the devastation. The negligence of spiritual values, I realized, was feeding into a cycle that would culminate in a global energy collapse by mid-2025. A tipping point where unchecked ambition runs rampant, leaving humanity to grapple with the sexy fallout. Next, violent storms ravaged what were once peaceful communities. I could almost hear the shattering glass, the howl of winds that echoed like anguished cries. These storms were more than just weather events. They were visceral representations of our collective disregard for the harmony of nature. Each image left me reeling as I understood that these powerful forces were responding to our actions, demanding change in a world that had forgotten how to listen. And then there were the warnings that pulsed through me, screaming of social instability simmering beneath the surface. Unrest, fueled by desperation. I saw protests erupting, people filled with raw emotion, raising their voices against a backdrop of chaos. It resonated deeply within my spirit, a knowing realization that our society was fracturing, the bonds that held us together fraying under the weight of disillusionment. Each outcry echoed the very principles we had allowed to slip away, and I felt the urge to shout alongside them, for awareness, for change, for the spiritual awakening that was desperately needed. What struck me most was the chilling intersection of human ambition and nature's wrath, embodying the very essence of that nefarious Nephilim plan. It wasn't random chaos. It was a direct consequence of our actions, and it felt like the universe was warning us, urging us to acknowledge the interconnectedness of our existence. This extended warning was more than a mere vision. It felt like a wake-up call, echoing through the corridors of time and urging humanity to abandon apathy. The urgency gripped me, desperate for our collective consciousness to awaken before we faced irreversible consequences. As I took in the significance of these omens, I was swept up in an emotional tide. The revelation chilled me with the reality that this wasn't just unfolding in some distant future. The signs were rising now, reflecting emerging trends predicted by experts that I hadn't yet been aware of. Catastrophic events weren't abstract anymore. They were tangible scenarios that demanded our immediate attention. In that brief moment, engulfed in the emotional weight of these visions, I grasped a vital truth. We have a choice to make. The warnings are here. Are we willing to heed them, or will we let the tide of consequences wash over us? The enormity of the moment pressed upon me, a desperate plea for awakening that I could not ignore. When consciousness came rushing back, it felt as though I had been yanked from one reality and thrust unceremoniously into another. The stark brightness of the hospital intensive care unit was a jarring contrast to the ethereal glow of that tunnel I had just traversed. I blinked against the clinical white walls, the scent of antiseptic penetrating deep, pulling me back to an existence I had almost forgotten. The hum of machines, the beeping of heart monitors, it felt all too loud, too harsh. My heart raced, not from fear, but from the weight of what I carried back with me. Relief washed over me like a heavy blanket. I was alive, and for a moment, I let myself feel gratitude for that simple fact. Yet, intertwined with that relief was a gnawing uncertainty, an unsettled feeling that clawed at my mind. Was it real? Had I really witnessed those divine beings and their urgent warnings? Or was it simply a figment of my imagination, spun from the chaos of my failing body? The shadows of doubt crept in, tugging at my thoughts, throwing me into a tumult of confusion that I couldn't shake. I felt like a character in a surreal play, grappling to separate truth from symbolism. Questions swirled around my mind like a storm. Did that vision hold actual significance? Or was it merely a manifestation of my own fears and desire? I couldn't ignore the haunting nature of the images. The political unrest, the natural disasters, and the chilling warnings. Each scene replayed vividly, and no matter how hard I tried to dismiss it as mere symbolism, the raw authenticity of it lingered like a bruise on my soul. Every moment in that sterile hospital room became a battle of skepticism versus belief. I tried to rationalize what I had experienced, searching for logic in the illogical. Perhaps it was a fever dream, or a brain misfiring in those crucial moments before I was revived. Yet, deep inside, a part of me knew that the gravity of those moments had shaken more than just my consciousness. It had awakened something within me, a primal urge to understand its meaning. And that urgency weighed heavily, pressing on my heart like a heavy stone. I felt the sharp contrast of living in a world that continued with business as usual, while I carried within me revelations that screamed for recognition. How could I reconcile their importance with the mundane flow of daily life? The fear of being perceived as delusional or overly emotional haunted me. Yet, I couldn't deny the depth of what I had felt. The pull of those radiant figures that seemed to pierce right through the turmoil of my existence. In those restless hours, spent in the intensive care unit, I battled the storm inside, trying to piece together what would become of me now. Each breath was a reminder of the weight I carried, both the relief of survival and the suffocating atmosphere of what I had witnessed. The realization that I wasn't just a passive observer, but a bearer of truths, pushed me deeper into reflection. I felt compelled to share, to warn. The echoes of their messages played like a distant chant in my mind, urging me to remember to act. But could I? The struggle felt almost unbearable. The instinct to rush forward, battling with the creeping fear of ridicule. This internal conflict wrapped around me, tightening its grip at the edges, leaving me on the edge of uncertainty. The visions bore down on me with palpable urgency, and it felt as though a thread connected me to those beings, their essence whispering through time and space. Though I emerged from my experience confused and questioning, I knew one thing for certain. The tension between skepticism and belief was far from resolved. I had one foot in the known world, and another in a realm that challenged every aspect of my understanding. And in that uncertainty lay a new possibility waiting to unfold, urging me to confront the reality of what I had witnessed, and the profound responsibility that came with it. As I sit here, reflecting on this entire journey, I feel a profound shift within me, one that has forever altered how I perceive life and the spiritual realm. The realities I encountered during my near-death experience have unraveled layers of understanding, exposing hidden truths I once brushed aside. It's as if a veil has been lifted, revealing the importance of awakening to the full spectrum of our existence, one anchored in both spiritual awareness and meaningful connections. What stands out most in my mind are the lessons I learned from those luminous beings. They emphasize the necessity of nurturing our spiritual ties through daily practices like meditation and prayer, simple acts that allow us to remain aligned with the deeper currents of life. I have come to realize how vital it is to cultivate an inner stillness where clarity can flourish. It's through this quiet reflection that we can begin to understand the intricate web connecting us all, opening ourselves to insights that beckon for recognition. Moreover, I feel an urgent responsibility to engage in dialogues with those around us, sparking conversations that challenge the status quo. Each moment we spend sharing our truths can sow the seeds of transformation within our communities. It's in these discussions that we might collectively confront the daunting realities we face, nurturing a shared consciousness that values not just survival, but spiritual flourishing. As I consider my own life, I urge you to take a moment to re-examine your path. Are you listening to the whispers of your soul? Are you engaging with the world around you in a manner that honors both your own spiritual journey and the values we hold as a society? The looming crisis I experienced is not destined to unfold if we choose to respond differently, if we step up and demand leadership that resonates with the core principles of human dignity and spiritual integrity. In closing, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude for joining me on this extraordinary journey. Your presence here matters. It signifies a collective yearning for understanding and growth. If you found this revelation meaningful, I invite you to subscribe, like, and share this message. Together, we can continue to explore these profound mysteries, shaping our consciousness in ways that may very well avert the trials of the future. I find hope in our connection and the possibilities it holds. Thank you for being a part of this quest for truth.